I'm Vienna, like the city in Austria. I'm 14, and my mom and I have traveled to 20 countries across 5 continents. On this channel, Wandering Vienna, I talk about teen travel and the financial principles that made it all possible. Okay, so my mom and I were talking to each other the other day, and she said something I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said, "You know what's interesting about all the travel we've done? We've never come back with less than we left with." I thought about it for a second and I was like, yeah, that's actually right. There's this quote, nobody knows exactly who said it first, but it goes like this: Travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer. And I want to talk about that today. Not in a go see the world, it'll change your life kind of way. I find that kind of talk a little vague, honestly. I want to talk about what that actually means, what it actually looked like for me growing up the way I have. Because I'm 14, and my mom and I have been to 20 countries across 5 continents together, and I've been trying to figure out for a while now how to explain what that's done to how I think, who I am, what I notice, what I care about. So, I'm going to try to say it as honestly as I can. Like, I'm sitting here talking to you, which I kinda am. I want to start with what the quote isn't saying, because I think it gets misread sometimes. It's not saying travel's worth the money because of what you see, like, you paid for a ticket to Rome and now you've seen the Colosseum, and that was the worth of the price of the ticket. That's fine, but that's not what the quote means. It's also not saying you need to travel a lot to a lot of places to be a smart and interesting person. That's not it either. What it's actually saying, at least the way I read it, is that when you spend money on travel, something comes back with you that didn't exist before. Something that compounds, something that keeps giving you things long after the trip is over. And the richness it's talking about isn't money. It's something harder to measure, but honestly, more useful. It's the way you start to see things differently, ask different questions, hold your assumptions a little more loosely. Notice things other people walk right past. That's what I mean when I say I want to talk about what it actually did to me, not the places, the inside stuff. Okay, so here are some real ones. Kathmandu in Nepal was one of the first places that made me genuinely question something that I had taken for granted. I'd grown up thinking, without really thinking it was just background noise, that having more things was obviously better. More stuff equals more comfort equals more happiness. And then I'm in Kathmandu and I'm looking at people who don't have a lot by any material measure, and there's something in how they're moving through their day that I couldn't quite name at first. It took me a while to figure out the word for it. It was ease. Like they weren't carrying as much as I'd expect them to carry. That confused me, but in a good way, like a confusion you get from solving puzzles. And I haven't stopped thinking about it since. Pompeii was different. You're walking through a city that was completely alive one moment, and then the next moment it was gone. Bread still in the oven, people still mid-step. It's the strangest feeling, like time just stopped and you were walking in the middle of it. I came home from Pompeii thinking about time differently, and about how you're spending yours right now. Not in a heavy way, just in a, oh, it actually matters what you do today kind of way. Mumbai was the first place that genuinely felt overwhelming. The scale, the noise, the contrast between parts of the city that existed about 10 feet from each other. It was the first time I understood in my body, not just my head, how big the world actually is, and how small my version of normal actually is inside it. That's a useful thing to know. When your normal feels like the only normal, everything that's different from it looks strange or wrong or hard to understand. But once you've seen enough different normals, you stop doing that as much. You get curious instead of confused. And in Peru, Cusco specifically, standing at the places the Incans built and thinking about what it took to build them, with the tools they had, the knowledge they had at that altitude, it recalibrates what impressive means, what people are capable of when they actually commit to something. I think about Cusco when I feel like something's too hard. It usually isn't. And Paris? Okay, this one might sound a little strange. Paris taught me that beauty can be a choice, that a city can be designed with intention, and it changes how people feel just to exist in it. I think about that when I think about how I want to design my own life, intentionally, with some actual care about what it looks like and feels like day to day. None of that came from a class. It came from being in those places with my mom and actually paying attention. Here's the part I always wanted to be honest about, though, because I think it's the part that actually matters for most people watching this. None of those experiences happened without the financial side being handled, and my mom and I didn't have some big travel budget or some special savings account just for trips. What we had was awareness. We knew where our money was going. We found the holes, the subscriptions, the forgotten charges, the small amounts leaking out every month that added up to something real. We plugged them, and we made sure we were always spending a little less than we had coming in. That gap, the small space between what we earned and what we spent, is what made travel possible. Not a big income, not a lucky break, just financial awareness applied consistently over time. That's the F and the A in FATE. Financial awareness applied. And the T in FATE is travel, but not travel as a goal you work towards, travel as a natural result of not losing the money you already have. That's a really different way of thinking about it, and it's the true version of how it happened for us. The quote says travel makes you richer. I'd add, and financial awareness is what gets you there. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but I'm not 14 and I haven't been to 20 countries, I want to say something about that. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. What matters is that you start. Go somewhere different from where you are. It doesn't have to be another country. It doesn't have to be expensive, but go somewhere that makes you feel a little outside your normal. And actually pay attention while you're there. Let it show you something you hadn't thought about before. And while you're building towards that, look at where your money is going. Find the holes, plug them, keep the gap between what's coming in and what goes out. It doesn't have to be a big gap, even a small one. Used with intention, it opens up things that weren't there before. The E in FATE stands for early, and I genuinely believe that the earlier you start with both of these things, financial awareness and real world experiences, the longer you get to live inside what they build. I'm 14. I've been doing this for nearly a decade with my mom, and the richest thing about my life isn't the number of countries I've been to. It's that I know how to look at things from more than one angle. That's my normal. That my normal isn't the only normal. That being curious is more useful than being confused. That's what travel bought me, and it's still paying. So, travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer? I think that's true. But I'd say it's true because of what it does to how you think, not where it takes you. Know where your money is going. Stop losing it through holes you haven't found yet. And use what's left for things that actually build something in you. That's FATE. Financial awareness, travel early. And honestly, it's just how my mom and I live. If this connected with you, share it with your friends who need to hear it. Click the like and subscribe button and come along on the journey. And if you're new here, this is Wandering Vienna, and I'm glad you found us. And make sure to come back because there's always more to explore. Bye!